CALPADS Error Resolution Cert155, Missing Student Offense Record for Student. We always recommend that you begin troubleshooting any error in CALPADS by consulting the CALPADS error list. On the left, you see the error number and the name, and they help you identify the error once you're looking at the reference documentation. You can match the error number and name to what you're seeing in CALPADS. The error description, student incident record where statutory offense indicator equals Y, must have an associated student offense record, indicates what your problem is, okay? Since we have a sync record and the statutory offense indicator has a yes value, therefore, we're going to have to report what offense that was through the student offense record. It's pretty straightforward. So typically, the suggested resolution provides you with one, the resolution, but two, what's expected in CALPADS, right? And so understanding the error says, a student has no student incident offense record associated to a student incident record within the same academic year. So basically, we are trying to match up the offense that was indicated in the sync or the student incident, okay? There are two methods of resolution provided at the bottom. Submit the appropriate student offense record because it's missing, or change the statutory offense indicator to a no value that's no, not null, or blank on the incident record, okay? And so we're going to be comparing in the fields validated, fields that identify the records as corresponding. So that's the school of attendance, the incident ID, the statutory offense indicator. That is a field of validation because if you say yes, then the SOF is required. If you say no, then it's not required. And then in the SOF or the student offense data, the school of attendance, the SSID, and then the incident ID local has to match the sync data so we know that they're corresponding records. Pretty straightforward, I think, pretty easy to grasp so far. And so anytime you're talking about missing data or required data, you want to look at the CALPADS file specifications. There are two versions of this document. One is the forms, which is an Excel spreadsheet, and the other is a doc, right? It's in a Word document format. And so we're looking at the forms version of the CFS or CALPADS file specifications. And here you see the statutory offense indicator, and the definition of the field value is an indication of whether or not the student involved in the incident has at least one reportable offense pursuant to Education Code 48900 and 48915, either or. There's only two different values. You see the code set column, it says yes or no, that's it. Those are the available answers. And then in the comments, it tells you if yes or if Y, then the SOF, student offense, and the SIRS records must be submitted for the incident and the student involved. If no, then only the SIRS record must be submitted for the incident. So it's reiterating, you're looking at the sync. If the Y is indicated for the statutory offense, you have to submit the student offense record. So another reference document that kind of supports the business rules and the requirement is the CALPADS data guide. And it's the best document when you're trying to identify procedures or business rules. And so there's this whole section on incidents. And this excerpt that you see was taken from the incident section, okay? And it says, what incident files are required for a student? So if I'm trying to determine why my Cert155 is requiring me to submit a student offense, this is a resource I can use to help me get the knowledge, the understanding of why this is required. And it says, for each student involved in an incident, there should always be at least one incident record, that's the sync, and one results record. That's the CERS. There should be a offense record, a SOF, only for those students who committed an offense. So again, the CALPADS documentation is helping you understand why you're getting a Cert155 error, because the SOF is required for students who have committed an offense. The sync record has indicated that the student has committed an offense. And then lastly, the CALPAD user manual will tell you about the functionality in CALPADS. It will describe the different elements in CALPADS, the navigation, the file types, but also some of the nuances. So if you went to incident data in the CALPAD user manual and you scroll down, you would eventually get to a section that says incident reporting reminders. And the first sentence underneath says users should be aware of some of the nuances when reporting incident data. Okay, so we just highlighted a key point, and this is relevant to why the error triggers and how there sometimes is a work process involved in resolving these errors. Okay, so the bullet says, incident records can be submitted through batch upload or manual posting at the incident data page. However, a user cannot submit using a combination of both processes for the same incident. If a user decides to upload the sync file for an incident, then the CERS and the SOF must be reported through batch as well. If a user decides to manually add an incident online, then the corresponding CERS and SOF section can be added in the same transaction. So these are true facts, and they restrict the way we submit the data and resolve any errors in this module, okay? And we're going to demonstrate this shortly, but just if you would accept without the demonstration that if you start a batch file process, you have to complete an incident. All three file types must be submitted through batch. And if you haven't had the practice, if you try to create an incident in CALPADS through the user interface, before you can validate and post, it's going to require all three elements of information. It's going to require the sync, the CERS, and the SOF. Then you can validate and post. Okay? And so let's discuss the resolution methods. There's three ways to go about correcting a Cert155. You can edit the statutory offense indicator in the sync record to a no value. No, there is not a statutory offense. So if my SIS populated this mistakenly, I can go in online maintenance, since this record was already established, and edit that. Or I can submit a new file and edit that. Okay? Either way, when you're editing, you can do it online or via batch, but the record has to be existing. We know that the sync exists because the error tells us we have a sync with a Y indicator, but no SOF record, okay? If the record does not exist, there's nothing to edit. And that goes back to the restrictions of functionality. The second resolution method would be to submit a missing SOF record via batch file. Again, if you were to do this online, CALPADS would make you submit the sync, the CERS, and SOF data in a single transaction. So the chances are, if you have a Cert155, you started a batch file process and you need to submit the SOF via batch. Either you have yet to submit the file, you submitted a sync, and the indicator on one of your records or several says there is a statutory offense, there's a Y value, and you need to submit the SOF, or you submitted the SOF, posted the record, but if that was a rejected record, that data did not post, and you have to resubmit a SOF after you go make the changes in your student information system. The third method of resolution is in online maintenance, right? Most often online maintenance. You can delete records via batch as well. And so if you have a single Cert155, it's close to the deadline, and you don't want to resubmit the files required, you can delete the incident and then recreate it in CALPADS Online. CALPADS will not let you submit soft records using online maintenance, even if there's an existing sync and CERS for the student. If that soft does not exist, there's no way to create it. And therefore, you're going to have to delete the sync and the CERS, recreate those in online maintenance, and CALPADS will then allow you, before you can post, to create that soft that corresponds with the sync and CERS. And so all this will be demonstrated for you. And that's a great lead into the online demonstration. We're going to show you how to resolve a Cert155 error. So for this demonstration, we're going to review how to resolve a Cert155 error. So you click Show, and that reviews the student, right? You have the student's SSID and the local ID. Now, if you click the SSID, it takes you to the student detail screen where you can see the elements of the student's profile, including the CERS and soft containers. If you select the incident local ID, that takes you to the incident details where you can look at the elements of the incident, okay? So I went ahead and done that, and we'll go to the student details. And here we see the student incident results. Now you have to understand that this is a combination of the student incident and the student results records, right? So the sync and the CERS files must both be posted to have any data here on the student detail screen. All right. When you submit a student offense, you can see it here. We do not have a student offense record, right? So we confirm that the Cert155 error is legitimate. This is when we consult the error list. So I'm going to drag the error list into the screen, and you can see missing student offense record for student. Student incident sync record where the statutory offense indicator is Y must have an associated student offense. So we understand that our problem by the error description is we've indicated that there was a student offense and we didn't populate a student offense record, right? We didn't either, in this case, we did not submit one in our file submission. We have sync data, right? And the school of attendance, the SSID, and the incident local ID are used for matching. The problem is we've indicated here, 1815, that yes, there's a statutory offense. Then you see the offense record. We don't have one, at least that's what this error is saying, and we need to match an offense to the school of attendance, SSID, and incident ID, right? And so anytime you see a field validated, it's a comparison. These are the fields that you're going to look in either to identify the discrepancy or to make sure that there are like and associated records. Now, understanding the error helps us understand the expectation of CALPADS and why there is an error. A student has no student incident offense record associated to the student incident sync record within the same academic year. Basically, we have a student incident record and no offense, although we said explicitly by the indicator that there will be an offense. And then the error list so kindly gives us a few resolution right options. Submit the appropriate student incident offense record. That's always the easiest thing to do if there is one. Or change the statutory offense indicator to N or blank. Okay, so we understand what we need to do. It seems pretty straightforward. Let's look at the data. So as you can see, there are no edit buttons. That's because the student incident result and the student offense from the student detail screen cannot be edited. So I've already used the link that was provided on the certification screen to come to the details. So here we have the student details. Right? One of the options were if there was no statutory offense, change the record and then validate, right? That would eliminate, that would resolve the error because there's no more statutory offense. But that will leave us with another problem. We have a result saying the student was suspended. And how do we justify the suspension if there is no statutory offense? Okay. And there's several, you look at Ed Code, you look at Assembly Bill AB 420 or Senate Bill 607, SB 607, and they pretty much have updated the education code, which is law. You know, the education code is based on law that requires specification in student offenses for suspension and expulsions, right? And so we'll save that for another tutorial, but because we have a Y indicator, we need a defense record, all right? So another method of resolution is to populate an offense, right? That would be pretty easy, but you can't do it online, right? There are no add and edit buttons. This is system design. These are incident or student level attributes, right? You can see it says add new student in online maintenance. I can edit this student's record or I can add a new student. I can edit this student's incident result or I can add a new incident result for the student. Because there is no offense associated with the student, there's nothing I can edit. So we must submit a new record to complete this incident via batch file. We can submit an offense for the student online. Now, if for some reason you don't want to do it, you're finished with your incident submission, you don't want to run the risk of full replacement, you can delete this whole incident and recreate it. The reason what you can't do is try to get creative and make another incident record for the student. And that's because it will be a duplicate record. The student can be in an incident, but only once. The student can have multiple results and multiple offenses, but a student is unique to an incident ID. And so to associate a soft using online maintenance would require the deletion of this entire incident and then recreating it, because we would have to delete the sync record for the student and then start over, right? And so to fix this record, you either have to delete it in its entirety and recreate an incident, a sync, and then the offense if you're going to do an online maintenance. Again, the easiest thing is to batch upload the student offense record and post it, right? But like I said, if this is the last error you have and you don't want to redo your whole submission and you want to do it on online maintenance, you can delete the entire incident, or you can delete the student's incident, right? Maybe you had multiple records and you just want to delete the incident for the student. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, right, the incident's gone. Since it was a single student incident, we'll type in the incident information. And no incident, right? That's perfectly fine. We'll add a new incident. And so, again, I'm using my state level account so I can access every LEA. So I have to populate this. You do not. It's associated to your account. Then we have to put the student's school of attendance, the incident ID, right? And if you're doing online maintenance, make sure you use the one from your student information system. All right, we put in our date. within the student's then we put in the student's SSID. Now, the difference between your file and online maintenance is once we put in the SSID, if we typed it in correctly, it's going to pull this student's information from the enrollment and demographic information, right? The local ID and the student's name. And then we're going to populate. And notice, this time around, after I deleted the record, I can put Statutory Offense Indicator and it pops up. All right, so I'm going to be able to add that offense record that's missing. All right, and so the result for the student was a in-school suspension for 1 day. And school or district personnel, and then the offense code. Okay. Validation was successful, and we post. So we have the incident. Now, when we open it, here's our incident. And so here's our incident ID, 18336. If we go back to certification details, 18336. So we know this is going to be resolved because we've added an offense, okay? So that's how you resolve a Cert155. The easiest way is to submit a file online, but if you delete the student incident record, you can recreate the entire incident for that student. And if there's multiple students in the incident, you preserve the incident. And if it's a single student incident, you can always click the delete button.